questions, and the presenter will be answering those at the end of the presentation. To ask a question, type your question in the question box and ignore the chat box. As a reminder, only the presenter will see your questions. At the end of the webinar, a short survey will pop up. Please help us by taking a few minutes to fill it out so we can make improvements for the future and also fulfill our grant reporting requirements. If you would like a certificate of completion, please note that on your evaluation. For information about our annual conference, which is scheduled for April 10th, as well as a complete list of our upcoming webinars, workshops, and support groups, please visit our website at vermontfamilynetwork.org. If you would like to partner with VFN to host a training event, please contact us. And now, here is our presenter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fun with Building Blocks for Literacy. We are so happy that you can join us this morning. My name is Brenda Buzzell, and I am the Building Blocks for Literacy Coordinator at the Stern Center for Language and Learning. I present live trainings and also instruct in our college-level courses. Today we are going to be sharing 3 program elements with you: shared book reading, emphasizing vocabulary, phonological awareness strategies, and some information on the speech-to-print connection, including alphabet knowledge. Building Blocks is a research-based, research-proven professional learning program that began as a program for early care and education providers, including mentoring and parent workshops, and we have always brought parents into the Building Blocks family. We know that if instruction is going to be effective for preschoolers, that we need to be sure that it is developmentally appropriate, filled with fun, engaging activities, and focused intentionally on the skills that they are going to need to be successful in life. If you are interested in more information, we have a free website, Building Blocks for Literacy, that you can access later, and this will expand upon the information that you're hearing today and also give you opportunities to be able to practice some of the activities and watch even more videos. When you access it at the website that is on your screen, you will see a front page that comes up like this, and you'll notice there's both a parent, other, and an educator provider track. Anyone can go into either track, so you can go back and forth. The educator provider has a lot of videos, a lot of tryouts, and a lot of explanation as to what these skills are and how to build them in developmentally appropriate ways. The parent other section shows a lot of parents doing these activities informally at home, in the car, in the bathroom when they're brushing teeth, doing different things with their children on a one-to-one or small group basis. So once again, you can access that. You'll have to log in, but once you log in, the site is completely free, and you can go into any section that you would like. Building Blocks meets national accreditations as well as being aligned with the Head Start framework for learning opportunities. When we say that we are research-based, we are based on the research of the National Early Literacy Panel and the National Research Council. And if you are interested in more information and don't want to go online but would like to look at a book, these are a couple of good resources that explain the findings of the National Research Council. The Starting Out Right book is really written for parents and has a lot of information from birth through grade 3 with a lot of activities and strategies that are developmentally appropriate throughout these ages. We are research proven, and our research has been cited in the Early Education and Development Journal. And our research was conducted in Vermont. Building Blocks has been going for 15 years. What we started in the beginning was a 2-day training for early care and education providers. And this particular research was published on that. We had a group of control children whose providers had not come to building blocks trainings, and a group of children whose providers not only came to the training, but also received 1 hour mentoring over a course of 6 months. So they had 6 sessions. And also these providers sponsored parent workshops so that their parents in turn could follow through on the activities at home. And what we found was that the target children made significantly greater literacy gains than the children whose providers had not been in the building blocks trainings, because we know that all children will make gains. But the most important and the most significant was that we found that the children in the lowest 20th percentile, those at-risk children, in 6 months rose from below to an above an at-risk level when their providers consistently did the building block strategies and games. We replicated this research 2 years ago when we switched from a 12-hour 2-day training to a 1-day training. Once we had our online website up so that folks could go to that to reinforce concepts, we switched to the 6-hour training, and as you can see, the results were the same. We still did the mentoring and the parent workshops, but children whose providers participate in these activities and consistently knew the skills to be introducing did significantly better than children whose providers were not aware of these strategies. We know that learning to read and write starts long before first grade, has long-lasting effects, and that you parents really are the first teachers of your children, that from infancy on, everything that you do has an impact on their future skills. We know that language is the link to literacy that enriches the lives of learners. All babies, when they're born and are babbling away back and forth to you, are beginning to develop their language skills, which include not only listening and speaking, but later go into reading and writing. If you think of your little children, some of you probably have infants at home now, and others of you can flash back quickly. Even when they were brand new and they were making that eye contact and you were babbling, they were babbling to you, you'd be talking to them, you'd pause, they'd babble, they'd smile, and everyone thought that they were being very cute, but what they were doing is they were really starting to hear the sounds of our language, the phonology. And from there, the children start to pick up vocabulary, the words of our language. They then learn to be able to use these words in correct forms. For example, I will walk to the store, I walked yesterday, I am walking now. And they'll start to use the correct tenses. They also will learn how to form sentences correctly, and finally be able to actually have good pragmatics where they are carrying on conversations with you, asking questions, letting you know what they like. I don't want that for dinner, I want hot dogs. And so everything that you can do with your children to model good language is really the beginning of early literacy development. Scaffolding, helping them to realize that if they're saying a word incorrectly, just repeating it in a different form. I go to the store. Yes, you did go to the store yesterday. We all went to the store, rather than saying, well, go really isn't a word. They're trying to figure out how to use our language, and our modeling is what's going to keep them on track. So, when we talk about vocabulary, we know that vocabulary is really huge, that there's a big difference in what 4-year-old children are bringing to school and to preschool. This was a very famous study. The link is on the bottom if you'd like to check it out later. Hart and Risley went in and listened to children speaking and how many words they actually heard from adults. Now, these are not the different words. These could be the same words over and over. But a child in a professional family by age 4 had heard approximately 45 million words, whereas a child in poverty had heard only 13 million words. So when we think that 4-year-old children can have a 32 million word difference, that's huge. And we really want to acknowledge that all parents are trying to do what's best for their children. They all love their children. It's just that people speak in different ways according to what their knowledge base is and what they grew up with. And if we realize that if we can try to build children's vocabulary in lots of different ways, that we can really make a difference in their later reading. So if you think about first and second grade children when they come to school, they have to not only just know a lot of common words in everyday language, but math has a vocabulary, science and social studies has a vocabulary. They have a vocabulary with their peers. They have a vocabulary with the other adults. And then you think about this progression. 4th, 5th, and 6th graders are going to encounter about 10,000 words they have never seen before in print during a year's worth of reading. If they have heard those words, or many of those words, and then they decode them, their reading is going to be a lot better than children who can't even figure out what these words mean. No wonder we say it's too hard for us, we don't understand. It would be like any of us trying to read a medical journal. If we don't understand what the words mean, it's very difficult to comprehend what we are reading. And we know that when children come into kindergarten with a low oral language, as opposed to children coming in with a high oral language, it makes a huge difference of years, 5.2 years difference in their reading level as they progress in age. So building vocabulary is so important. We like to call them $50 words. We want children to be able to understand the $50 words, the high-frequency words of mature language users. For example, if you are saying to your child, well, that glass could break and it's my favorite, and I really don't want anything to happen to it. It's a lot different than saying, ooh, this glass is very delicate, it's fragile, it's precious to me, and when the light shines through it, it's brilliant. You can see all of the different prisms. Those words are words that children are trying to figure out what's going on. So if we can be conscious and try to use these words and also explain to them what they mean, this will help to build their vocabulary, these $50 words. Think of the differences if you said to a child, well, I'm pretty happy and I was really smiling at what you just did, as opposed to saying, I was so amused with your antics. Quite a difference in vocabulary there. Both maybe mean similar things, but the amused, the antics, spectacular, those kinds of $50 words are creating much different pictures in a child's mind than if you are just using the common everyday words that children would be using with each other. Many children's books are full of these words. Many, if you've read a lot of Jan Brett's books, you'll see the words pranced and stomped and hesitated. All words describing actions, but think of the difference in those words and how rich they are and how much fun it is with your children as you're walking out to the car and maybe they're not so happy about going out to having to get into their car seat, and you say, let's prance out or let's stomp out, and you're actually practicing what these words mean. So $50 words are a great way of thinking about words that you can introduce that are words that mature language users are using. We know that children are able to understand sophisticated concepts in oral language. I always chuckle when I used to hear my children when their babies were young saying, I can't believe it. They understand everything. I will say, go and get the ball, and they'll crawl over to it. We know that they're understanding it. It's just a matter of being able to form the words. So if we take advantage of the sophisticated concepts, and we take advantage of the fact that children want to learn words, and we try to increase and build their vocabulary before they go to school. Once they start to encounter those words in print, they are going to be able to understand what they're reading and be more successful in their writing, their reading, and their times in school. We have a link here to a video. We put some videos in for you so that if you would like to go later to these YouTube videos, this is a video of a mother and a little girl, and the mother is reading a story, and the word here was ancient. And so it's really interesting when she asked the little girl what ancient meant. You can see the little girl kind of pulling away from the mother and twirling her hair and being nervous and saying, it means pretty. And so instead of the mother correcting the child, she just said, well, look here at these pictures. You can see that she's wearing some really old clothes from way back when. So she was describing the word ancient in a way that her daughter could understand it, and that in turn helped the little girl to really understand what the story was about. So oftentimes if you're reading, you may stop and pick up a word that is a $50 word and explain it in a way that your child can readily make sense of it. So check out this video, and it's very interesting to watch the body language as the child starts to understand what the word means. Phonological awareness. Phonological awareness is huge. It's understanding that our spoken language can be broken into smaller parts. All of our sentences can be broken into words. Our words can be broken into syllables, and our syllables can be broken into sounds. It's not phonics. It's working purely on the sound level. If you think of those babies when you're first starting to babble to them, oftentimes you may slow your language down. Not baby talk, but just slow it down so that they can hear you and distinguish that you are saying, oh, let's get your snowsuit on so we can go outside. Because oftentimes that's a good way of modeling that our sentences are broken down into words. Later, we want children to be able to hear the syllables and finally the sounds. That in shoes, there's really only 3 sounds. Sh, ooze. These are our umbrellas that we like to display to kind of make a visual for you. If you think about phonological awareness as a big umbrella, children start to have word awareness. They then start to be able to respond to rhymes and alliteration, syllables, rhyme, and phonemic awareness. We're going to touch upon each of those and talk about some games that you can play with your children in order to just build these up in really casual ways. Responsiveness to rhyme is something that you do from the time that they're babies all the way up through reading stories and rhyming books at night. Rhyme awareness. Think about the itsy bitsy spider with all the little finger movements. Children love that, and they're hearing that the itsy bitsy spider climbed up the water spout, down came the rain, washed the spider out. That's out and out rhyme, and you're probably really putting a lot of emphasis on those rhyming words. When children are reading Dr. Seuss, they're hearing a lot of the rhymes. When you're singing a lot of favorite songs, they're hearing the rhymes. Alliteration, such fun. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Many of you probably know head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and it's a great way that you're doing this with young children to get them to recognize body parts. But you can change that up with med molders, me's, and mo's, or bed boulders, b's, and bo's, or zed zoulders, z's, and zo's. And what they're hearing is the alliteration. They're hearing that beginning sound is consistently the same sound. And they're laughing away, but they know that when you're going dead boulders, bees, and bows, you're touching your head, shoulders, knees, and toes. So responsiveness to rhyme is a huge way for children to start hearing how our language is being manipulated. Again, we put in a video here with a mom reading a book to a 2-year-old, and the book is One Duck Stuck. You'll be able to find it on the YouTube, and we also show it on our family forum. And this little boy has heard this many times. And what's unique about this video is that oftentimes he's doing what maybe your children will be doing, or children if you're a provider and you have your children sitting around. He's kind of like has a little music box that he's playing, and he's kind of goofing off a little bit. And sometimes we may think that they're not paying attention, but he's right on with that story. And when she stops with one, the duck in the truck is now, he's filling in the rhyming words because he is aware of that response to rhyme. It's something he's familiar with, and he's able to pick up on the rhyme. So again, it's a cute video to watch to see how even if children don't seem like they're paying attention, they really are right on. Syllable awareness. Syllable awareness consists of 3 components. We want children to be able to blend syllables, put words together. We want them to be able to segment and be able to delete. For example, robot talk is a great way. Oh, look out the window. Can you see the snowflake? And they will be hearing window, snowflake. It's time for dinner. We are having spaghetti. Isn't that a much better way of calling children to the table than saying, okay, everybody, it's time for dinner, come right now. Because when you start talking like a robot, their ears are going to perk up, and you're getting a little bit of syllable blending going on. Segmenting. Segmenting is probably what you'll remember from school when you're clapping out words. The fact that in rainbow, puppy, there are 2 claps or 2 syllables. We often start with compound words because it's easier for children to be able to visualize that and then move into words that have 2 and 3 syllables. Rainbow as opposed to umbrella. And a great song that you can do in the car, you can do on a walk, you can do in the bathtub is If You Are Happy and You Know It. I'm sure you probably do this anyways. It's actually even been put into a book. But instead of just singing If You're Happy and You Know It, clap your hands, you can change it up by saying If you're happy and you know it, clap out cowboy. If you're happy and you know it, clap out cowboy. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will really show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap out cowboy. And they're clapping. And you can change it up. They can be tapping it out. They can be stomping it out. They can be jumping it out. It's a great way to get their attention. Sometimes you're trying to get children dressed and they're not really cooperating. You start singing a song and they're going to really be paying attention to you, and before you know it, that activity is done and you've got a little bit of segmenting going on there. So what we like to say is it's really important to know the skills of your child and how you can scaffold. If your children cannot do that, if you're happy and you know it, and they're just jumping up and down, then maybe you need to go back to blending and talking about the fact that's right. In cowboy, there's 2 parts, and they make up the word cowboy. Let's clap it out together, cowboy. Let's sing our song, and just kind of talk them through it, because there's nothing wrong with explaining to children what we're doing and let them know that we're playing with syllables. Deleting is the larger or the last component of syllables, and that's where we're taking a syllable away. So starfish without fish is just a star, or cowboy without cow is just boy. A great game, if you have a couple of children and some friends over, or you're having a birthday party, is Duck, Duck, Goose, which a lot of children enjoy playing. But instead of just doing Duck, Duck, Goose and having them run on Goose, you can change it up by having them use a compound word. Maybe dog house. So the children would go dog house, or the child who is going around and is tapping their heads, dog house, dog house, dog house. And when he wants that other child to run, he would say dog house. So one child is segmenting, the other children are blending because they're waiting for dog house to turn into dog house, so they will be able to run. And as they progress with compound words, go ahead and throw in dinosaur, Tyrannosaurus. And it's so interesting to see that they really will be able to segment. And actually there's a typo on here because that really should have said segment and blending syllables. When we're talking about deleting, we are talking about taking something away. And I want to go to this video first before I shared some of the games. This is a video, and the mom's in the car with a little boy, and she's singing the song that goes, there's a starfish hidden under my bed, starfish, starfish, take away the star, what's left instead, take away the star, what's left instead, it's just a, and you'll see the little boy coming out with fish. And it's a great game to play in the car once your children have played this, maybe with their provider, or maybe they played it with you at home, and you're sitting in the car, and instead of them saying, are we there yet? How much longer? You can break into a tune. So start with the compound words, and especially when you're doing it without, if you're trying to concentrate on your driving or whatever, you want to be able to use something that you're familiar with so you're not turning around and looking at them. Now, another little game that we have is we call it the little syllable gobbler. And you can use a puppet for this, or you can just use your fingers and pretend that they're the little gobbler. And you can say to your children, okay, here comes a little syllable gobbler. And in this hand, you have the star, and in this hand, you have the fish. And the little syllable gobbler is going to gobble up the star, what's left. And so there's the fish. And sometimes just playing it as a little game like that, where you're scratching their hand, just is another way of bringing in another sense, one of their senses, so that they're able to really concentrate on what you're doing. So playing with syllables is a great way to have children be able to hear how our words are broken up into smaller parts. Rhyming is the next set of skills that children will be able to do, and it's a little bit harder than syllables because rhyming involves not only recognizing a rhyme, the fact that some words sound the same, but also completing rhymes and being able to produce a rhyme. And oftentimes we think all that rhyming is being able to produce, but if we recognize that there's components to this and we work on all of the components and be able to scaffold down to where our child's ability level is, and then scaffold up, before we know it, they really will be able to produce a rhyme. Remember, in the very beginning, they were hearing the rhyme awareness, but now we're getting into things like the fact that a nice little song is, I'm thinking of, or actually I think we start with this one, if your name rhymes with manna, stand up. If your name rhymes with manna, stand up. If your name rhymes with manna, stand up and give a clap. If your name rhymes with manna, stand up. It's a great way to, if you have more than one child and you're trying to get them to get dressed or to be able to pick something up, to play with their name. It's also just a great way. They'll be laughing, but they'll be hearing that you're saying their name in a different way. A great game for picking up toys is singing a little tune like, I'm thinking of a toy that starts with B, starts with B, starts with B. I'm thinking of a toy that starts with B. Let's put it away. And so hopefully they'll find the books and the blocks and the balls and all the babies and all the other words. Instead of just saying, let's get this room cleaned up. It's a great strategy, and what you're doing is you're also helping them to be able to start to recognize rhymes. Whoops, I think I was doing phonemic awareness there instead of the rhyme. So I think we would change it up with I'm thinking of some toys that start with walks, and there they're finding the blocks. Or I'm thinking of some toys that rhyme with walls, or I'm thinking of some toys that rhyme with malls, and they're finding the dolls or whatever. So rhyming and being able to use their names, being able to use toys, even being able to use food. When you're having snack time and you're saying, oh, today we're going to have macros and meads, which is crackers and cheese, and you're putting out those, and they're seeing that you're doing it. We don't have to worry that it's nonsense and that children are going to constantly think that we're talking like that, because we're playing it as a game. And when we're making nonsense rhymes, we want to hear them we want them to be able to start to hear the rhyme and pick up on that rhyme. So completing. Many of us know the songs "A Hunting We Will Go" or "Down by the Bay," and in these songs, this is when children are actually able to start completing rhymes. "A Hunting We'll Go" is actually, with that little tune, "A hunting we'll go, a hunting we'll go, we'll catch a fox and put him in a," and when we leave out that last word and they're able to complete it, whether they complete it with a nonsense word or they complete it with a real word, we're listening for the rhyme. And what happens is many times they want to be able to hurry up and complete it, so they may say a nonsense word, but as they get more attuned to what we're doing, you'll find that they actually will start coming out with the real words. Another great book that you probably have read to your children or tune is the 5 Little Monkeys Jumping on the Bed. And that's a great one to change up, because 5 little monkeys can also be jumping on a boulder and they can hurt their shoulder, or they can be jumping or climbing up a tree and hurt their knee. So when we are leaving out the end and they're able to create their own rhyme, they're able to start working through this progression of rhyming. And then the last stage of this is producing a rhyme, the idea that what rhymes with fox. And oftentimes we're changing our paper towels, and although the new ones are going to start coming without the rolls, we have those rolls. And what a great way to pick that up and use it as a spyglass and say, I spy with my little eye something that rhymes with wasket. And there find the basket. And they can use these as spyglasses, but you will find that this is a harder skill, being able to produce a rhyme. So if they can't do that, then go back to completing, or go back down to recognizing, and you are helping to guide them through the progression of rhyme skills. You can also sing those songs up above in the car, in the bathtub, and let them make up their own rhymes. This is a video here that we've included where the children are playing in the kitchen center, and they're making mitza, which is really pizza, and they're putting on mushrooms, and they're just having a great time playing restaurant and doing some nonsense rhymes, so you can watch that. And finally, phonemic awareness, which I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit there, where I was singing the song and having them look for the beginning sound, because phonemic awareness is understanding that words are made up out of individual sounds. And that is really a wonderful skill. The idea that cat is k, at, cup, k, up, dog, og, that there are individual sounds that make up our words. And if this is just a quick visual for you, the idea that the phoneme is really that smallest segment of sound that distinguishes meaning. So there's a big difference between bet and wet, bet and bed, and bet and bat. But changing up those sounds really is what makes meaning of our words. And when children have phonemic awareness, this is a progression of the skills. They are able to start matching sounds, isolating sounds, blending, segmenting, deleting, and manipulating them. And some of these are skills that they will be working on once they formally are in kindergarten and first grade. But there's no reason, if you know your children and your playing strategies, that you can't start introducing them to phonemic awareness. We have 44 phonemes, or 44 separate sounds in our language that make up all of the words that we speak. And yet there's 26 letters in our alphabet and 250 combinations of how these letters go together to make up these 44 phonemes, or these 44 sounds. So if we can really help children to hear these distinct sounds, when they get to school, they will learn the correct spellings of them. But being able to segment words into phonemes is the single most important predictor of future reading and spelling skills. The fact that cat has 3 distinct sounds, and when children can hear that, shoe, if you remember our video earlier, or our slide earlier, shoes actually has more letters in it than it has sounds. It had those 3 sounds, sh, oohs. We want them to be able to hear the sounds. So phoneme games are a great thing to do with your children. Again, robot talk, just like you did it with spaghetti. Now stretch out, I want you to find your hat, because it's cold out and you need to put it on your head. And hopefully they'll find a hat and put it on their head. Stretching out those words is giving them that opportunity to be able to blend the sounds. If you're walking someplace and they're not necessarily being cooperative, how much fun to stomp out sounds as you're walking along. Let's stomp out all the sounds in dog, or stomp out the sounds in dog house as we're walking towards our puppy's dog house. And maybe that will help them to cooperate with you too, but they're stomping along and being able to hear the distinct sounds. Simon Says is a great game to play, especially in the bathtub. Simon Says, touch your nose. Simon Says, let's wash your toes. Let's scrub your elbow. And they're listening, they're blending, and you're getting some phonemic awareness into it. Cleanup time, again, we said, was a great way of finding all the toys that begin with a certain sound. If you're in the grocery store and you want them to help you, maybe you can say, let's find all the vegetables that begin with P. And so maybe they're looking for the parsnips, or maybe they can find the peas. But you're concentrating on an initial skill and giving them something to do. They're having fun, and you're getting to the grocery store. And again, Duck, Duck, Goose can be done with phonemes as well as it can be done with syllables. This video shows some children cleaning up, picking up the room, and the mom is having them pick it up according to sound. So again, a great way if you're wondering how this really would work with real children. And if it would work, you can tune into this video and watch them picking up the room. There's many, many books out there that you can use to promote phonological awareness because we want children just to hear the richness of all of the sounds in our language. And even books like One Duck Stuck, when they're making all the noises, you can really drag those sounds out. Many, many of the books are rhyming books. Many of the books work on more than one skill. There's your 5 Little Monkeys, and you can bring in some completing by adding something else as we talked to earlier. But just remember that phonemic awareness really is that key to unlocking the alphabet principle, because we really want children to understand that all of the sounds that they hear in spoken words are represented by the letters that they see in print. What we're aiming for is children to be able to understand the alphabetic principle, and we choose to represent it like this. If you think of it as a bridge, we're constantly speaking with our children. Our oral language is so important, as we said, from just beginning to hear the sounds of our language to being able to use our language. And when they can take their speech and break it down into smaller parts, and they start to hear that monkey, milk, mommy, message, and they hear and then they understand that that is represented by that letter M, they're on their way to the alphabetic principle. We know that children are wired for sound. We know that they're babbling and they are going to pick up language, but print really is an accessory that must be bolted on. Because if children can take the process of what they know, their speech, they're taking this and they are going to master what they don't know, print. Let's look at what children are doing. From very early on, they're developing concepts. They're developing the concept of what print is. You can see that little baby there is already holding his book up. He has it upright. He doesn't have it upside down, and he's looking at the pictures, and there's a difference between pictures and letters. Children are going to be picking up the concept of a word and the concept of a letter. The concept of print, the idea that pictures are on that page, that they can point to what a picture is, that they turn their pages correctly, that they know the front and the back, that they can follow along, that our words, when our print goes left to right, top to bottom. And whether they're using a book or whether you're out shopping and they're picking up a flyer, they're still turning the pages. They're holding, children who have been read to and have been exposed to print are going to hold things the correct way and turn the pages and look at different things. The concept of a word. We want children to be able to understand that the concept of a word means that words in print are made out of letters with spaces on either side. Just like we talk in words, it's important for them to understand that we write in words, that letters come together and make words. These are some really easy strategies that you can do to help children to develop the concept of a word. When you're reading, finger point. They will see your finger hopping from one word to another, and there are spaces in between those words. If your child is writing a story and they've drawn a picture and they're telling you what that was about, and they maybe have some scribbles, you can write what they are saying on top of that picture and leave really good spaces between the words so they can see, here's my word, there's my next word, there's my last word. And the spaces are there. We oftentimes tend to write it really small so that we can remember what they're saying, but by writing it large, they can actually see that we are taking their words and translating them into print. Many times we tend to label items. Sometimes you may, in your child's room, have words all over: window, clock, door, bed. But if you can start to take and write things in short sentences, they'll be able to see the words. For example, wherever your children are putting their boots. If you have a little sign that say boots go here, you can put a little picture of boots on top of boots, put a little arrow pointing down to the boot tray, but they're seeing the idea that we have 3 words there with good spaces. And finally, it's really fun for children to have their own pointer. You can use a pencil that isn't sharpened. You can use a popsicle stick or anything, and just let them point to the words on charts or on the mail or in the newspaper or in the book, so that they are actually hopping from one word to another. Children are also going to develop the concept of a letter. The idea that letters have specific shapes, they have names, they have sounds, and that they are used to form words. You know, and years ago we used to say, well, don't put the alphabet up because you're forcing them to read. But now the research is telling us if we expect a child to know a car and a bed and a dog and a tree, there's no reason we can't expect that they recognize that these are letters. They don't have to necessarily be able to tell us the name of every single letter, but to be able to recognize that letters are what we use for print is huge. And the fact that when we take these letters and put them together with a space in between, we are now forming words. Letter knowledge is more than just being able to sing the alphabet song. And it's a great thing to teach your children the alphabet song, but are they really knowing the letters, or are they just memorizing a cute tune? Because letter knowledge really consists of being able to recognize the letter, name the letter, know that that letter has a sound that we use, being able to write the letter by themselves, and connecting letters and sounds through invented spelling. So there's a lot of components to letter knowledge, and that very first piece, recognizing letters, is what we were talking about in the slide previously, with the idea that there's no reason children can't understand when they're opening a book that there's a difference between the print, the letters, and the pictures. The most important letter, of course, is the letter of that child's name. But before we do that, let's look at a couple of songs that are really good for letter recognition. Oftentimes when we sing the traditional alphabet song, we tend to sing it really quickly, and we end up with LMNOP. So if we take this alphabet song to the tune of Mary Had a Little Lamb, it comes out a little bit differently. If you know the tune of Mary Had a Little Lamb, it would go like this. It goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, and every letter will then have its own name. So you can try singing the alphabet song with your children to different tunes. Here's one to the tune of London Bridges. You can try it later. We use both upper and lower so that children will be exposed to both cases of the alphabet. And they can point. You can do this with letters in your room. You can do it whenever you have a book that has the alphabet. You can sing along to one of these tunes and point to them so that they are actually realizing that when they're singing a tune, these are letter representations. And again, as we said, the most important letter is a letter in a child's name. So this video is for you to view, and this is a little girl who has alphabet blocks, and her name is Ivana. And so the very first block that she is going to find here is the I for Ivana. And her mother is saying, can you find the I for your name, for Ivana? And she's helping to bring the connection between the sound and the letter. And then her brother and her sister's names are there. The M for mommy, the D for daddy. And so we don't have to start with the beginning. Just work with sounds and with letters that are important to your children. Plastic letters, alphabet blocks, anything that you have around is a great way to make connections. Because what we know is that letter knowledge and phonological awareness are our 2 strongest predictors of later reading. And when you can help make that connection, that is wonderful. And here's a little boy doing letter writing. And if you watch this video, you'll see that he actually has a lowercase down, and he's able to write his name and read both the upper and the lower, which is that component that is part of letter knowledge. And this is where we're going. We want children to be able to take their knowledge of all the sounds that they hear and code it to a letter or a combination of letters. And what they're going to do with their invented spelling is they're going to take knowledge of what they already know along with what they are hearing. So this little girl in kindergarten made her own list. And this is a list of what she's going to do with her doll. And her dad actually found it and emailed it off to us. So she's going to change diapers. You can see she has a lot of those sounds there. Feed, and it looks like animals, but it's really Annie, because her name is Annabelle. And she knew how to spell Annabelle, so she took the Anna, and then she threw in a couple of other vowels because she wasn't sure what was going to work for Annie. And in feed, of course, she doesn't know that we have the rule of 2 vowels go walking, the first as a talking. She just heard the E and put it in there. She's going to go to baby school, drop off Annie, go hunting, eat lunch, hunt more, pick up Annie, and feed her. And pick is really fun to look at because we always work with cat, with k, and so she didn't know that it's necessarily a CK or a K, but she knew that k began with k. And so for pick, she threw in the C. And this is what children are going to do. This is a natural progression if we start on the sound level and bring in the letter representation. It's so much easier than when we're working on the phonics and trying to just start in with the letters. So always keep in mind that phonological awareness combined with the alphabet knowledge is the way that children are going to start to develop good, strong foundational skills to help them transition to school. Everything that you do, your involvement in your children's education is critical to support and enhance children's learning. So we have some parent workshops coming up, and you can check out this sign if you'd like more information on this. Feel free to call Linnea at the Stern Center. And we thank you for joining our webinar today. And if you have questions, we did have a few questions come in. We have a few minutes. And so one of our questions is someone asked that we mentioned a number of videos on YouTube and was wondering, are there any other videos available? And yes, there are. If you go to the Building Blocks for Literacy website, both in the parent section and in the educator section, there are many videos. The parent section is actually full of parents and children with more videos, and the educator has a lot of videos of a provider working with large and small groups of children. Now we have another question. What age is Building Blocks concepts appropriate for? Is it just 3 to 5? Building Blocks really is building literacy, early literacy skills, and many of the skills and the concepts can be brought down if you know your children. Many 2-year-olds are ready to start pulling up and finding letters. When you're working with your babies and you're singing Rockabye Baby and you're singing any songs and you're tapping their back, you're kind of tapping out syllables. And so, yes, it's a preschool program, but again, there are many things that can lead up to it. And of course, oral language is a concept and the beginning of it all. So even though it's 3 to 5, know your children and know if you look at these videos, you'll see that there are some younger children starting to pull up skills. So, thank you very much for joining us today. Please take a moment to complete the short evaluation and note if you would like a certificate of completion. As a reminder, this webinar will be archived on the Vermont Family Network's website along with many other previously recorded webinars. Please be sure to visit VFN's website at www.vermontfamilynetwork.org for a complete list of upcoming webinars workshops, and support groups. Have a great day.